On today's episode of the Real Estate Rainmakers podcast, we're going to dive into the buyer journey and how you can strategically communicate to your subscribers and get people chasing you rather than you chasing them. Let's go.
Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast, where we help business-minded real estate agents stop chasing leads and help them start attracting business. We don't claim to make winners here. We do claim that we help winners win bigger and faster. Building your business is building your database, one that works harder for you than you do for it. So if you want to get off the transaction treadmill, keep on listening. If you want the shortcut to dominating your market, then go to www.marketmakersystems.com/demo.
How's it going, brother? How's it going?
It is amazing, my friend. How are you, Mr. Odo?
I'm doing well. So it's me and you again this week. Reese is out on the road doing the Double Your Business Live, crushing it, helping people all across the country. Super excited about that.
I know, and it's too bad. It's his birthday today.
You know what? When I was a kid, every time on my birthday, my dad would have me work, and I'd be like, "But Dad, it's my birthday." He'd say, "We work harder, twice as hard on our birthday, son." I'm like, what kind of crap is that? But it gave me the mental model. So like when it's my birthday, I'm like, let's work. Mike apparently is the same. I called him this morning and wished him happy birthday.
That is true. And he's in Naples, Florida. So if he was going to be working in a place on his birthday, Naples, Florida is not a bad place to be.
True that. They keep sending me pictures, of the water and the boats. And, I just moved my boat back from there up to Lake of the Ozarks. And it's like, man, did I make the right decision?
Where was your boat? What city was it in?
It was in Longboat Key.
Nice.
At the Longboat Key Club. Yeah, it was great. I mean, it's just different seasons in life, right? So my son started kindergarten this year, and I'm in the system now, whether I like it or not. I dropped him off this morning, and it's just that season of life for me. So I didn't figure I'd be able to spend much time down there in the winter like I did last year, but it was a beautiful spot.
That's awesome. Very cool. So today, we're talking about buyer journey and understanding the stages at which people are, so you can kind of strategically reach out to people with the right content. Somebody that just ultimately putting yourself into the shoes of your prospective clients that are known as subscribers in your database. Because if you've been listening, we know of anything that we're not going to call them leads anymore. We're going to call them subscribers. And when you think of it from their point of view, what they've done, it's just fascinating to think some of the preconceptions that people have of when people are going to be ready to buy or sell, and they immediately go to bad leads. When a lot of times it was like they literally were on Facebook, saw an ad for a new property that went for sale in your area. They clicked something. They wanted to see the pictures of it, so they entered in their information, and then you called, and they were like, "Yeah, I just saw this on Facebook. And, I think we're going to be buying something in the next probably 3 years or something, but we're pretty good with where we're at right now. We just got somebody starting kindergarten or senior year of high school or whatever it may be. So we're good right now." And then some people get mad at that when that's just somebody that's in the process, and not everybody's going to convert in the same time frame.
Yeah. For me, this was a paradigm shift, just having an understanding of the fact that there was a process to purchasing a home. I've shopped a lot of things. I mean, when I was a kid, my face was in the classifieds looking for puppies. As I became a teenager, I was in the classifieds looking for cars. And so when somebody brought this to my attention, that people don't just wake up and go buy a house. There's a journey involved, right? I thought, that makes a lot of sense. What are the different steps in the journey? And the first one is, really an awareness of a need to potentially buy a home, right? So for whatever situation it is, there becomes an awareness in the mind of the prospect, like, maybe I should consider that. And it's interesting because right now I'm going through that myself. I've got a home that my wife really loves, but the challenge is there's only 2 bedrooms on the main level. The other bedrooms are upstairs. I've got two children. One of them is a 5.5 month old, and we're all sleeping basically in the same room, And so my son, we put him in his room to start. Point is, I'm getting an awareness now. Like, man, I really should probably start looking, and so I do. But that journey and that process are going to be measured steps, and if you think through that process, just take some time, which we can talk about here right now. You're going to be able to communicate them at the right time with the right information and be very accurate, as well as lead with value in a way that differentiates you. And so that's, in my understanding, the goal of the podcast today, to really kind of nail that down.
Yeah. And I had somebody reach out to me that was been listening to the podcast and following Michael for a long time. And he was listening to something Michael was talking about in terms of, the only one principle. And when you look at it, you want to look at it like you have one funnel. And he was like, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it because, I work with a lot of people that are inheritance type properties. I work with a lot of first time home buyers. And he was listing off all of these little segments. And he was like, so aren't those all individually funnels? And he was like, just any help you could give there would be good. And so ultimately, I want to make this as simple to think about as possible. So the most simple that I've ever seen the buyer journey laid out is, you're right, Odo, you've got to understand that there's a process of which people go through. And the better understanding you have of what they're going through, the better off you're going to be in communicating with those people. But if you just break it down into, there is a top of funnel, which is, becoming aware of your problem. There is a middle of funnel where you are starting to seek out solutions to that problem. And then there is the bottom of funnel where you are picking a solution. You are at the decision stage at that point. So what does that mean in real estate is, if you've got top of funnel, which is all of your new leads coming in, what the most people make the mistake of taking a lead, not a subscriber, but a lead, and trying to make them a client in the same day, same week, same month, whatever it may be. And that's their only goal.
They go straight from top to bottom, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to force that.
Yeah. They want them to go from, hey, I'm showing interest in this because I'm aware of a problem, and your top of funnel isn't. No one runs ads that's like, hey, would you like me to come out to talk to you about how to list your home today?
Right.
How well would that ad go, right? Because that is bottom of funnel. But if you've had someone that has done a bunch of things, their lead score is out of the roof in your system, and you reach out, that call to action might not be bad for people that are in that situation because they are at the bottom of funnel. It is apparent that they are making a decision. So having a decision type call to action makes sense. But if you do not understand the journey, then you're not going to be able to appropriately plan. And you're going to waste a ton of money with people that are just at the top of funnel that you're trying to do bottom of funnel things with, that you're trying to rush the process. But how many times do you know, as your experience in real estate, did you talk to someone and significantly change their time frame of which they were going to buy or sell?
Yeah, not it doesn't happen. And
right.
you know what I mean? Because they're going to do what they're going to do. But it's the same when you're working with a prospect that you're hoping to become a client. I mean, there's all these different steps, and everybody tries to just skip right to the last one. And what happens is you miss a lot of opportunity doing that, and you miss a lot of ability to create a rapport and create a raving fan and create a client for life and create somebody that's going to give you referrals. Not just trying to knock them over the head all the time, which is what I did. I mean, I started out like that. I was like the little cartoon dog, case by case by case by case by, because I didn't know what I didn't know, right? I thought if I'd hound them enough, they'd either tell me to go away or they'd buy something. But it doesn't make you feel good, about what you're doing in life when that's your place in it. And there's definitely a better way.
Absolutely. And it's 2018 right now. It is 2018, and people buy things differently. Like, there are people that would much rather, I mean, there's a reason why all these big box stores are going out of business. No one wants to even go to a place. They'd rather not have to talk to anybody. Some people avoid stores because they don't want to deal with a store associate asking them questions. And so they're like, rather than going through the hassle of getting out of the house and doing all this stuff, it's like ease of use. So I can just order it with a click of a button and it's going to show up on my doorstep in the next 2 days. And, going to the actual store to get it right now is not worth the trouble. So people will research online. They will do all of the things. The way people buy and select services nowadays is just significantly different than it was even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, especially. So, gone are the days where, I mean, do you appreciate it when people hound the heck out of you? Maybe because you are a natural born salesperson, so you can appreciate their effort. But most people do not like the feeling of getting bashed over the head with things, trying to make them make a decision rather than guiding them through the process and letting them and really truly marketing them through the funnel, all the way from top of funnel down to bottom of funnel, pushing them, nudging them along, not trying to hit them over the head like a caveman and then drag them to the bottom of funnel.
Right. And the problem is, a lot of agents, they'll buy leads from, big portals. And what that portal has done is this for them. And they're delivering that lead at the bottom of the funnel. And the agent thinks, oh, this is a good lead because they're ready to buy. But the truth is they've already been exposed to multiple agents. And so now you're in a competitive position where if you would have done this yourself, right, from the beginning and nurtured them in the right way, there is no competition. You just got this big fat pipeline of people who are ready to do business with you when the timing is right for them. And that's the difference.
Right. Thinking of it, I'm going to Zillow for an example, right? Like when I first started searching for homes when my parents were buying in Chicago, and I was looking at Zillow, right? I was on there. I had no interest in buying a house. I was looking for my parents, but I was on there looking because I was going to be staying in there every once in a while. So when I was looking and sending them listings, was I getting hounded with phone calls and text messages because I had created an account on Zillow?
I would say probably not.
Not at all, right? Like the reason why they can charge an arm and a leg is, they get however many unique visitors monthly. I think it's like 26 million or something. So when they have that, I mean, they nurture people and they have a process that they allow people to raise their hand, and then they have a certain amount of people that raise their hand every single month, and then they sell those to 3 people, and then it's like, who's the hungriest shark to get it, and they get that and they move on, right? But it's a buyer process that they understand, because I don't think that they would have nearly the amount of organic traffic that Zillow gets on a regular basis if they called every person that created an account and created a search the minute that they did, and like would almost sound like they were upset if you weren't ready to buy right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like I've heard some agents' scripts. I'm like, they'll be like, hey, I'm having a hard time with these leads, these new people coming in. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean, first off? And they're like, well, no one's ready to buy right now. No one's ready to sell right now. And I'm like, okay, well, how many people were ready to sell in the next 12 months? And they're like, oh, a couple. And I'm like, okay, so that's a good thing, P.S. But let's go back a little bit. What are you saying to these people? And they'll like, are you following a script? And I'm like, nah, I'm not really following a script. I'm just talking to them. And it's basically something along the lines of, if it was a buyer search, the most common answer I hear is something along the lines of, hey, this is Jake with so-and-so Realty, and I saw that you're looking for homes. Are you ready to buy right now? And it's like, no. Like, are you pre-approved already? Do you want to go see that home right now? And it's like, okay, whoa. Like, that's the equivalent of going to a bar, and if me in my single days were to go up to some females at a bar and just be like, hey, I'm not even going to tell you my name. I'm not going to tell you, well, I might tell you my name, but I'm not going to ask you out to dinner or what your name is or any of that stuff. I'm just immediately going to go to the close of like, hey, do you want to get out of here? Right? That is not.
You want to go home with me?
That is not a good strategy.
Hey, you over there.
Will that work occasionally? Yeah, but I mean, that might not be the best strategy.
No, and you're definitely not going to be taking from the cream of the crop. That's for sure.
Right? Yeah.
The ones that say yes anyway.
Yes, right? That is not going to go overly well in the long term, I don't think. So, it's just fascinating.
Yeah, well, I think that we're touching on a fundamental shift that's occurred that still hasn't really caught up to a lot of the industry. And so, if you think back to the old days, you'd get a sign call or you'd have a print ad and somebody would call about a specific house. All of those people are bottom of funnel. So most agents' entire game plan for conversion is based on bottom of funnel. That's what they know. And so, I remember an agent that had joined my team, and he was kind of a old dog, old school guy. And he said, I won't show them unless they commit right then that they're ready to buy a house if I take them out today. And of course, that's what you had to do if you're just dealing with bottom of funnel people, because there's a lot of tire kickers, things of that nature. But at the same time, you're also in a very strong competitive position with any other agent they're exposed to, because at that point, you haven't had a chance to build rapport. You haven't had a chance to articulate value to that prospect on what you do differently. And for them, you're just a commodity. Everybody, whoever can open the door. Oh, you're not available? Click. I'll call the next one down the street, and they'll run over here and open the door for me. And so the difference is understanding, at top of funnel, right? We're able to capture them now when they first open the magazine, right? We get their name, email address, and phone number. They're looking, okay? If that happened every time they opened the magazine and we were just like throwing up all over them, they probably would never touch those magazines again, right? That's what you were saying with Zillow. But when we run top of funnel today, and this is pretty much true throughout the industry, it is without the promise of talking to an agent. Would you agree? Yep. Like we don't talk about the agent because the client isn't really. Their preference is to get the information in a way that is hassle-free with no obligation and nobody trying to sell them, no hungry salesperson on the other end. And that's been the case now for probably 15 years in real estate, as far as especially online marketing is concerned. There's all kinds of different terms for that style of advertising, but that's pretty much what all of them do. And that's what the national portals do as well. Hey, come, check things out for free. And so the way that I used to do that when I understood that is, I would, even on the bottom of funnel, give them a toll-free hotline with an ID, with a free recorded message, which is not what I suggest today because technology is way cooler. You don't have to do that kind of garbage, right? Like it was a whole freak show of systems for me to get those scripts recorded and write the script, and it was just a heavy lift. Anyway, the reason why we did that is because we understood people did not want to speak to an agent at that point unless it was very soft, right? Hey, I'm just here to help. Just want to make sure you're figuring out everything okay. Is there something I could do? And that's kind of how we lead in with the script today for these people that have come onto the platform, initiated a search, right? We don't want to be all up in their face until they're ready. And the timing is going to be theirs. There's just not much you can do about that.
So true. And I was just looking up the definition of marketing because that's ultimately what we're talking about. And I think one of the biggest roots of the problem and the opportunity, I guess, with the real estate space in general is so much falls onto a single person in real estate, right? So when you're going through and you're getting licensed, it's not like they're teaching you how to become a business person. A lot of people when they
don't even teach you how to sell.
That's no sales training. It's amazing how many people don't think that they're in sales when they get into real estate. I was just watching a Gary Vee thing this morning, and this lady was interviewing him about real estate, and she was like, "What would you tell people if they were having a hard time, getting motivated to prospect?" And you asked Gary Vee that, and his reaction was pretty funny.
Priceless.
Yes. Because he was like, well, I really want to say something, but I'll start with the sugar-coated version first, like the nurturing, like, hey, it's going to be okay. But just know that if you're expecting the same results of people that are willing to do it, then you're going to be, mistaken and you're going to be disappointed. But what I really want to say is what are you thinking? And he uses different words. But he's just like, just make it happen. And, like you don't have a choice. Like you are a salesperson. You are in the business of acquiring, which is a really good business because, if this was cars, you would have had to technically, if it was a lot that you were selling from, and you were selling, if you were a listing agent and you've got a bunch of listings on your inventory, like you would actually have to pay for those. If that was a car version of the same business, you'd have to pay for them to be on your lot to be able to sell. So real estate is phenomenal.
Our clients pay for the inventory. They're making the mortgage payment every month.
Exactly. It is a very good business. But the challenge is it typically falls onto one person. So like as a company, internally here at Market Maker, we have the ability to have a sales department. The sales department has essentially account executive type people, and then sales development as separation in the sales process. We have a separate marketing function. We have a separate product function. So like when someone talks to somebody, like somebody else takes over to make sure that they are good, which I can think of the most successful teams that I've ever seen have that process broken down pretty good. They have people that are dedicated to marketing. They have people that are dedicated to actually servicing clients, the transaction coordinators, all of those fun things and structuring that. But that's not the case for, 95% of the industry. So it all falls on to one person's shoulders. And so it's easy to convolute everything and assume that's all one thing. Like that's just part of being a real estate agent, when you really do have separate functions. We have that 9 box that shows all the different, which we'll be able to make available on the website as a download on the resource page. But if you go and look, there's 9 different functions that you pay anywhere from probably $8 to $10 an hour for some of the work to be done to, thousands of dollars an hour as a listing agent and someone that's like building a team. So in that world, like it's hard to look at things as from just like a marketing perspective, because if you came in and you had a somebody that was in, if marketing had a Hall of Fame, right? And you had somebody that was a Hall of Fame member of the Marketing Hall of Fame, and they came in and looked at real estate businesses, they'd be like, whoa. Like you have no marketing. You don't do
And the irony is that's really the service that we provide. Right? What are we telling them we're going to do? We're going to market and sell your home.
Right?
So we're in the business of marketing, right? That's what we do. But it's a disconnect there, without a doubt.
And it's just how do I look at this, and how do I become a marketer? And if I'm not going to devote myself into at least understanding it, then I've got to be able to team up with somebody, partner with somebody, hire somebody, do something of somebody that's going to understand that. Because the minute you do that, the game shifts. Because if you can understand the journey that it takes to go from somebody just raising their hand somehow to one of your advertisements, not marketing, your advertisements to get them into the top of funnel so then you can market to them over time, then you're starting to do it right. You're starting to understand it correctly. And when you can segment your database based off of all the people that are at your top of funnel, all of the people that are in your middle of funnel, and then all the people in your bottom of funnel, you can have the right calls to action that are going out to those people, the right messages, the right emails, the right text messages, the right whatever it may be that is going to the right segment, that is going to have the goal of just getting them to the next stage, right? The top of funnel. The biggest problem is people take people that don't even get really into the top of funnel. They just kind of raise their hand a little bit, and then we're like, hey, you should buy or sell with us right now, like today, right?
You want to go home with me?
Yeah, right? Bad strategy. Like at least buy a drink, and don't just assume what they want. Like ask them. It's typically a better practice. You pay for it too, by the way. Good strategy.
Yep.
So if you have that, come in, and it's like the goal is to get them to the next step. Like if they're not willing to have a drink with you, then they're probably not willing to have dinner with you. So the goal is just like, what is the point of getting these people? And I should get them to a point where, the next stage is when they are determined that they are going to make a decision on buying or selling. with somebody, right? Buying or selling is going to be the answer to the problem that they have. And now I'm trying to get them to the point where they're at the decision-making process, right? And then when they're at the decision-making process, then the sales kicks in, right? That's when we're trying to get an appointment to sell them on us, on why they should go with us. But that's not, don't think of it as one big, giant, same process with the same group of people, because then you're just a one-trick pony, and you're going to be losing people out of your funnel left and right because they don't like the experience that they're having with you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking with a person who had made tremendous success out of their life through sales. And by the way, as a side note, I was always taught, I've never verified this, that the highest paid position on the planet is sales, specifically commissioned arm sales. And so, as a kid, these are some of the things that I was grew up being told, higher than a baseball player, higher than a pro athlete, higher than anything. And so I always looked at it as a craft worth studying. And a lot of people don't take the time to study it. But if you do, what you'll find is that marketing is sales. Marketing is sales in a different format. It's either in a written word or through a video or through some other form of media. And specifically what we're talking about here is when they come in at top of funnel, they might not have a desire to speak with you yet, and that's okay. You're just trying to create that relationship. When in the middle of the funnel, they might have a possible desire to speak with you, right? So what do you do? What we suggest is you have the ability to maintain communication with them in a non-threatening format that adds value to their journey. And specifically what we're suggesting right now is doing that through video, so they can consume it on their time when they want, based on the topic. If the topic catches them at that time that's important to them, depending on what you're putting out there, they're going to watch it. And guess what? They're creating a relationship with you, and you're not even, it's a really cool way to do it, right? Yep. It's a lot better than
they're essentially digitally face to face with you, to where, if you're wearing a, if you're wearing a Texas A&M hat, that might be a good thing or a bad thing. But there's just a way for them to feel connected to you.
Right. Which is the goal. And then bottom of funnel, they're going to have a desire to speak with you. And guess what? If you've done your job right, they're only going to have a desire to speak with you. They're not going to see other alternatives as very viable, because you'll have literally programmed them in their mind to do business with you through a series of events that you premeditated, leading them down that funnel from the very first time they click on the ad. That was all you. You had that ad out there. They don't even know what's going on, right? There's two types of people who wonder what's happening and people who make things happen. And for them, they're wondering what's happening, but you're making it happen for them in a way that is above and beyond your competitors, right?
Yep, absolutely. And, I was just trying to think of an actual example of, the only one principle is always a good thing. And by the way, I finally found the definition of marketing. It said the management process through which goods and services move from concept to the customer. Which is
repeat that again, because I think it's worth.
Yeah, the management process through which goods and services move from concept to the customer.
It's a funnel.
So it is, right? And people are going to, think about when you buy a car versus how your siblings might buy cars, or your spouse might buy a car. The process, when I usually am the most snap decision person on the planet, but when it comes to buying a car, I watch all kinds of videos. I read all kinds of blog articles about them, reviews. I got to know exactly what the tech does, what's comparable. And then I get it down to a segment of what I want. And then it's I got to go test drive multiple times. Each one, I have this very distinct process. If someone came in, was hardcore trying to sell me, I wouldn't buy from that person. Unless I was in a good sales mood and I was like, dude, you are working hard. I'll come back when I'm ready.
Well, let me give you
not happening today.
Let me give you the flip side of that, because I tried to buy a vehicle in December, and I tried to buy from multiple different salesmen at different dealerships, and my sister was also buying the same type of car. So every time I talked to them, I'd say, "Hey, give me a good deal," and you can sell two of them. And at the end of the year is when all the incentives happen. But I was shocked at the lack of follow-up. I straight up told them I'm buying a car. Already have this vehicle, just a couple years older, and I want to upgrade to the newer version, right? Because it 'tis the season. It's all the good incentives at the end of the year, and I had to go chase these guys down. And so there is the opposite of that, right? There's a person that doesn't even follow up. And, my sister ultimately bought a car. I never did. I never bought one. I would still buy one right now if I had a salesperson that was willing to get the job done, but they just never follow up. They never call back. They never bring a deal across my plate and say, hey, I know what you're looking for, which they know down to the colors, what I want, down to the trim package, what I want, right? Yep. And the fact that I never hear from them again, just really makes me concerned for their income, because I'm sure it can't be great. You know what I mean?
And that's a massive bottleneck at the bottom of funnel, right? So you walked in, you were the person that if you hadn't been in before, you skipped right down to the bottom of the funnel, and they didn't have a system in place. They were just people dependent, and people constantly fail, which isn't a bad thing. It's just truth.
Human error.
Right. Say that again.
Human error,
right? It's just going to happen, right? Life happens. Systems and technology typically are going to be much more reliable. So if they had a system, let's say, that they could trigger a plan that automatically or automagically, more so, followed up with you after you left over the course of the next 14 to 21 days or whatever, that was just random, like, hey, checking in, I know you were interested in insert car here, let me know how I can help. If that would have been staying in front of you, you would have gone back and bought from there.
Well, and interestingly, I just went on Vroom.com just about a month ago. Not even, actually, it was about a week and a half ago. Inquired about the same vehicle. The lady called me. She said, she said, do you have a trade? I said, yeah, it's the same vehicle. It's 2 years older. She said, oh, okay, great. Can you give me the VIN number? I was busy. I said, yeah, I'll have to do it later. Never got her the VIN number. Never heard back.
Right. And
and that's a technology company that sells cars. They deliver them to your door, right? Which is a cool concept. But I'm just shocked at the lack of, maybe they just have so many prospects coming out of their ears they don't have to follow up. Maybe it's a different industry. But for me, as a salesman, as that being my chosen career path and an area of study my entire life, I just am shocked, honestly.
Yep. Yeah. And it's just waste. And going back to what I was saying about the only one principle. Let's say we have Jim in the state of North Carolina, and I'm a real estate agent in North Carolina, and Jim goes to Facebook and clicks on an ad because it says, Charlotte, North Carolina home values up 6.2% in this zip code over the last 12 months. Thinking about selling, check out your home here. And I go there, right? And I fill out my information. I find out that, Jim finds out that his house is worth, $430,000, and roughly online. And he said, yeah, thinking about selling in the next 12 months. I get that as a real estate agent. I call that person. I do not get in touch with them, right? Most agents, now we're at top of funnel. We're just trying to get them to at least the middle of the funnel at this point, right? That's the goal. So they're at top of funnel still. They've shown interest, but we haven't connected with them. We don't know if that's really even the person, if you will. So I have two options. One, I don't have any systems in place, so I just got to remember my sticky notes, right? So I put a sticky note on my computer to call Jim back, but I have other leads that come in during the same time frame, so the chances of me actually following up again are probably slim. So I call that person one time, lose them, right? Better process would be to have a system in place that has like the perfect 29-day follow-up plan where you're getting text messages and the emails and all these things on top of a reminder to call that person as well. So let's say that happens and they respond to a text message that says, yes, I am the owner of 123 Main Street in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I text them and say, okay, great. I saw that you put in a request. When could we talk? And he says 5:00. And so I call him at 5:00 and we talk. And I find out that his, daughter is a senior in high school. She graduates in May. She's going to UNC, and they're going to be downsizing because that's the last of the kids. So they're going to be downsizing to a 1-story thing around the same neighborhood, at least the same area, or probably around May or June after she graduates from high school. So in that case, I have now moved that person into the middle of the funnel, right?
Right.
So they got a problem. They're in the solution, right? They're going to be making a decision on the solution. So I got them in the middle of the funnel. What do I give that person throughout the course of the next however many months, 8 months? How do I keep top of mind, right? There's direct mail that I could do. There's all kinds of things I could do. What were you going to say?
To begin with, what I like to do is get their permission to do just that on the call. Hey,
right.
Would you mind if I followed up with you when it's closer? When would you like that to be? Let them give me the time frame. I'll decide when I'm actually going to call them, and it might be sooner. Then the next thing I would do is ask them, if they'd like the market update. Would you like me to give you, market update, keep you in touch with what's happening in your neighborhood, recent sales, homes on the market, just to keep your finger on the pulse? Doesn't cost you anything. It's no obligation. I'd love to do that for you so that you can, continue to do your research when the time is right. That's another thing, right? And then on top of that, we would be creating the videos that would help them understand the process that would be getting put out to them at least on a weekly basis, so they can continue to consume at their leisure. And in addition, we would pixel them, retarget them, so that every time they get on USA Today or they're going on Facebook or they're going on Google, they're seeing me. They're not going to think of another agent if those things are going on. And on top of that, if you make that follow-up call, let me tell you what would happen with me, and I'll be real brief. I wouldn't make that call until my pipeline got dry, and I'd be like, oh, crap. Who can I call? And it's a vicious cycle. It never ends unless you put these processes in place. And that's how, you see agents putting up these big, big numbers. They put these processes in place, and pretty soon they're running the process instead of the treadmill or the horrible roller coaster of feast and famine.
Yep. And the content pieces that keep them in front of them do two things. One, they keep you in front of them, but two, they give the subscriber, the person that you are now nurturing, they give that person the ability to raise their hand when they are ready. So they cannot. I was talking to somebody yesterday. He was real estate agent in San Antonio. Spends like $14,000 a month on leads. So he's got leads coming out his ears, right?
Right.
He was in Miami. Michael was in Miami yesterday doing a workshop for some agents. He just happened to be in town buying a condo for himself for vacation purposes. And he was there, so he went to the workshop, and then I talked to him afterwards, and he said, he was like, dude, I'm just so thankful that it was just such a coincidence, but I'm so happy. I always say the word nurture, and I've never heard anybody say it before, but you guys talk about it all the time. So that made me really happy. But he was like, to be honest with you, I do such a terrible job. He said like a week or two ago, he had a past client that had to look him up online to find his information. He was like, when they called me and said that they had to like work to try and track me down, I knew I wasn't doing a good job. And those were just for his past clients.
Yeah, this is a successful guy. So I mean, the problem is ubiquitous, right? It's everywhere.
Yeah, and it's hard to overcome. But how do you constantly stay in front of them so they don't have to search your name on Google to find your contact information if they were going to go with you because you did such a good job dealing with them in the first place? Which you'll have that, but let's make it way easier because you'll capture a lot more value. So in the middle of funnel, we got that person, Jim. He's getting ready. We're sending him videos and blog posts about how to get your home ready, how to sell your home for the most amount of money. What's the process?
How to choose a real estate agent.
Right.
Right.
What questions to ask, what things to prepare in the house, what's going to have the biggest, if they're going to do any improvements, what's going to have the biggest return on their investment in upgrading the house. Like those kind of pieces are going to be very interesting to somebody that told you that they were planning on selling within the next 8 months, right? So you're staying in front of them with good content. You're adding value. You're not constantly calling them and texting them, hey, can we get together? Because the guy would be like, listen, I told you after the school year, calm down, Sparky. So you get to that point, and let's say, this is where I see a lot of people that even do that remote, like nobody really I've talked to has nailed that part down, to be honest with you. There's people that do it unintentionally, but not truly strategically. But the cool part is, the opportunity is when you get to the point where they're ready. So if they told me they were going to sell in May or June, I'm probably going to start trying to actually connect with them and set up some time to talk maybe in March or April. So if I were to do that and I call them or text them and don't get in touch with them, I would have them on a plan to be able to make sure that I get in touch with that person. So they did not connect when they were going to be ready. And then once I connect with them and they're like, yep, we're going to be ready here pretty soon. We got to set up some time to talk. Then I got them in the bottom of funnel. And now I'm talking about, retargeting them or sending them things about clients that I've had that are super happy, right? Those testimonials.
Social proof. Yeah.
Social proof, right?
Yeah.
Because that's now the bottom of funnel because they're making a decision now. So why should they choose you over anybody else? They probably know another real estate agent because it's, the United States, and there's a lot of agents out there.
Some markets you throw a rock up in the air, you're going to hit one.
Right. There's like 100,000 in California or something crazy. So you got a lot of people that are in the industry. So the chances of them knowing are going to be good. But why are they going to choose you with the biggest investment of their life typically to handle it? You've got to show proof. You got to show the reasons why, what makes you different. So you're hitting them with that, and then you connect, and they're like, yep, let's go out there. Selling becomes superfluous when you are able to nail the process of marketing. Because if you've done all that over the course of 8 months, how much easier is that listing appointment?
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. It's all over but the crying.
Yeah, it is a formality at that point. So that's the process. If you had one person and you were taking them through, that's the process of the stages, the buyer journey, if you will. Is taking them from them raising their hand and just understanding their motivation and their timing, and then having a plan and a system that allows you to bring those people through while you're still doing other stuff. Like you didn't actually do a lot of that. If you set this up right and you got a system like ours where it's automatically doing that for you, then that's running while you're doing what you need to be doing anyway. You're going to be working with other buyers. You're going to be working with other sellers while that's going on. But the one person came through and you've sold houses all along the way. And now you've got little reminders and stuff. And you've got this person popping up in your calendar that, you talked to 8 months ago and you're like, oh yeah, look at that guy. He's come back around. This is great. Right? That's how you know it's working. And that's how you know you've set it up correctly.
I love it. And just to nail down that only one principle, a lot of agents, almost all of them, when you're talking to them about anything in general, when it comes to marketing or sales, my market's different. They're always looking, they're like difference matchers, right? Like Tony Robbins says, right? Oh, this is different. This is different. This is different. What you're looking for are the similarities that all of us go through when we're going through a buyer journey or a seller journey. And those are the things you want to craft your marketing around. So I want to close it out with that. We went a little long, but it's a good topic. I could keep talking.
I know. I get all excited when I talk about this because once you understand that and you have message to market match and you understand where people are in the journey and you're segmenting them properly in your database, then it becomes easy and you know where your bottlenecks are. If you got a bunch of people that are in the top of funnel that never move down, then you got to change your strategy, change your results. So, if you need help with it, we're more than willing. I had somebody reach out this week saying that they were listening to the podcast and they had some questions. So we're going to jump on a call tomorrow. So I'm always down. Just email me, jake@marketmakerleads.com, and I'll help any way I can.
Yeah. In addition, join the Facebook group, Market Maker Facebook group. Hop on that. We do 3 live trainings a week. It's good stuff. Well, listen, everybody, we really appreciate taking the time. We hope that we added value to today. We're going to go ahead and sign off. As we always say, our goal here is to help you build a business that works harder for you
than you do for it.
Love it. Make it a great day.